Okay, let's get this going. All right. So imagine this. You get paged in the middle of the night for something you didn't build, so you're not sure how to fix it or diagnose the problem. So you start fishing for people who can help, adding people from different teams onto a conference line, desperately trying to find someone who knows what's going on, and getting more frustrated and resentful. And then it's total chaos. You have 20 people on a conference line. People are talking over each other. Everyone's exhausted. It's impossible to know who's doing what. You're taking contradictory actions, so you don't know what's even having an effect. Everyone's tired. They start yelling at each other. Finally, your CEO gets word of the outage, tracks down the conference line, and dials in to demand why it isn't fixed yet. Does any of that sound familiar? I think most of us have an on-call nightmare like this in our history. When you have a major outage like that, every minute counts because money's on the line. Downtime can mean losing customers. That's why it's important to have an organized approach to come to the fastest resolution possible, minimizing damage. So let's get some definitions out of the way. A major incident is any unplanned service outage that actively affects your customer's ability to use your product. Now, some more operationally mature companies may have a formalized incident response process. This is basically a runbook for an outage. It defines who needs to be involved, what the role hierarchy is, the rules for communications, how you make decisions, all that stuff. And an incident response process will typically have a formalized role called the incident commander. They're responsible for leading the response. They're the key decision maker, and they keep all communication flowing. Whether or not you have a formalized incident response process defined now, it's pretty common to assume when you're in the midst of a major outage like that, the person best suited to lead would be your senior technical leadership. They have the expertise to diagnose the problem. They have the authority to tell people what to do. The problem is this isn't scalable. If a small group of senior technical leaders are responding to every major incident, they're going to burn out. So I'm here to tell you, you can scale your incident response process by welcoming non-technical people to serve as incident commanders. Now, I'm proof that you can do this without compromising response effectiveness. So who am I? I'm Rachel. I work for PagerDuty. I'm based in San Francisco. My background is mainly in project and product management. I was a Scrum Master for some time, and I am PagerDuty's first non-technical incident commander. So today I'm going to talk to you about the top skills that make a really good incident commander, and then once you find those people in your organization, how to train them in a really friendly way so that they're prepared to lead. So, top skills for an incident commander. A bit of a spoiler here, none of the skills I'm going to talk about are technical skills. The point here is you don't have to be an engineer to be an incident commander. So what does matter? Now, although I'm arguing you don't have to be highly technical, I will say that it is important for your incident commander to have at least a high-level understanding of your system architecture. They should understand what each of your services do as it affects your product and your end users. But the point here is that they don't have to know how to build any of these services. They don't know how to fix it. They just need that high-level understanding of what things do. So for me, this was a matter of just staring at our system diagram for a really long time. I even made flashcards to try to memorize the silly names of our services, how they affect our customers, the teams that own each of those services. So just a bit of study, basic information is enough for the incident commander. So first, really important skill for a good incident commander is someone with a mind for process. You're working within this highly structured process of your defined incident response process. So you want someone who is able to easily remember that process, who can remember the roles, who's supposed to be doing what, the communication rules. You need someone who can follow that process and enforce that process in a group. Now, this is a core competency of project managers, obviously, which is my background, but you may have other people who thrive in this highly structured environment. They may be well suited for this role. Next really important skill is communication, but it's a specific type of communication. You want someone who's comfortable with directive communication. They need to be comfortable telling people what to do, no matter what their day-to-day role is. So you may have an incident commander who is more junior, and that's fine, but they need to have a sort of gravitas where they're going to be comfortable telling maybe their manager or their tech lead or even the CEO what to do during a major incident. Because during a major incident, the incident commander, no matter what their day-to-day role, they become the highest ranking individual on the call. Now, obviously, that requires buy-in from your leadership before the call, but once you have that buy-in and you've established this process, you want to find an incident commander who's going to be comfortable communicating in that way, no matter what their day-to-day job is. You also want someone who's able to facilitate in a way that prevents the group from spending too long debating what they should do. You want to get the group to share information, and then based on that information, you make a decision and you keep things moving. Another really key communication pattern is you need someone who can always be very clear and specific with their instructions. You always want to assign a task to a specific individual. Never say, I need somebody to look into these logs. You want to say, David, I need you to look into this log and get back to me in 5 minutes. Understood? It involves a few more words, but it's clearer. So you need someone who's always going to be very clear and direct with their assignments. Now, this is actually my natural communication style, to be more directive. And that's not always the best style to take in a working environment, especially working with teams. But in this high stress situation, it is an asset. So for me, it was a good outlet to use my more natural communication style in this situation, in this role. So obviously, management may easily take this style, but it doesn't have to be people in leadership. You may have other people on your teams who are more directive in this way, maybe product owners who are really used to making decisions. Those types of people will be more comfortable in this type of communication style. Now, in the example I just gave of assigning a task to a specific person, you may notice that I also gave a time box. I said, get back to me in 5 minutes. So your incident commander, whenever you assign a task, you want to give a time box, and then you need to remember to follow up at the end of that time box. So you need an incident commander who's really good at time management, keeping track of the time, remembering when they're supposed to follow up, and keeping a regular cadence of updates. So the incident commander is responsible for keeping communication flowing, giving regular updates to the stakeholders. And for us, a good rule of thumb is about every 30 minutes, I'll check in to say, this is what's going on. When's the last time we contacted our affected customers? Is it time to give them an update? You don't want to do it too frequently, so you need to be able to keep track of that time. Not just whenever you remember, give a status update, but every 30 minutes I'm going to remember to check in. This is another core competency of project managers, keeping track of time, but you may have other folks on your team who are really good at turning things in on time or knowing the schedule, keeping updates on the schedule. Even if they're falling behind, they'll check in on time. They've always got a mind for time. That's a really good skill for your incident commanders. Now, I just talked about a few skills that are very structured and directive. All of that needs to be balanced with active listening skills. Especially when you're working with an incident commander who is not an expert, not a technical expert, they're really going to rely with those responders, the service owners who are on the call responding to the issue. You need to get feedback from those experts about what we should be doing. So you need an incident commander who's going to be humble enough to ask for that information, listen to the feedback of the experts. And that follows a really simple pattern. I basically just ask, are there proposals for what we should do? And then you want to drill into, well, what's the expected impact of that proposal? So given that information I get from the experts, then I can make a decision. You also don't want someone who's just blindly following the process and acting as a sort of dictator. You need someone who's able to be flexible enough to modify plans as you get more information. You get proposals, you make a decision, you experiment, you see what happens. Based on that information, I'm going to modify our plans. And finally, even if you have a structured incident response process that's very mature, during a major incident, there's always going to be a certain amount of chaos. It is a high-stress situation. There's going to be a lot going on. So you need someone who can simply keep up and hear everything that's going on. That's the final way that listening is really important for an incident commander. So here's a summary of the top skills for an incident commander. If you wanted to take a photo, this is a good photo slide. So you want someone who has a good mind for process, who's going to remember the structured process. You need someone who is good at directive communication, who can keep track of time, follow up on the time boxes, give a regular cadence of updates. And finally, all of that's balanced with active listening skills, so you listen to the experts on the call to make your decisions. Talked a lot about project managers because that's my main background. They tend to be a really good fit for an incident commander. Product managers can also be a good fit because they're used to taking that leadership role without necessary authority over their teams. People managers, traditional leaders, could also take this role even if they aren't highly technical. But think a bit outside of the box. Maybe more junior engineers that you wouldn't have assumed could lead in this situation. Start recruiting them. Maybe testing engineers, QA engineers, maybe really comfortable working in that highly structured, time-oriented situation. They could be a good fit as well. So once you've identified these people in your organization that have these skills, none of them technical, and you think that they could make a good fit for an incident commander, how do you train them? You do have to get them up to speed because it is such a critical role. When money's on the line, you've got a major incident, you need someone who's going to be totally comfortable to act in this role. But there's a really large hurdle to get over. Incident response is really intimidating. Even for engineers who are familiar with their services, who've been involved with a few incidents, this is not a situation you probably love and want to be in all the time. And I would say for people outside of engineering, it's even more of a scary black box where you would assume I couldn't possibly help in this situation. So you need a training process that really welcomes those people in and encourages them to overcome that fear. And that was my experience in my training. All the other incident commanders were incredibly encouraging and helped me to become an incident commander now. So the first step in your incident commander training is you need to clearly define the incident commander role. And we've refined this over time. It may be a little different for you, but the key distinction that I'm making here with the incident commander role is that they are not a resolver. They're not responsible for finding the solution to the problem. They shouldn't be logging into any servers, looking at any logs, none of that. Their role is to coordinate the response and to delegate all tasks, which means they're not doing any of those tasks themselves. This coordination and all the communication is enough cognitive load for any one person. To add on tasks to try to solve the problem is too much. So this division of labor is really important. And by dividing out the coordination and communication responsibilities to this sole role of the incident commander, that frees up your responders so they don't have to deal with the coordination and talking to stakeholders. The incident commander will handle that, and your responders can actually focus on solving the problem. So you need to make that distinction very clear for the incident commander role. And that definition frees it up for non-technical people. Because you're not doing any of the tasks yourself, you don't have to be an engineer to do it. So a good best practice that we follow is we host regular office hours about incident response. About once a week, we'll have a room scheduled where we can welcome anyone in the organization who's wondering about how we do incident response. And I like to say that incident response is not an engineering problem. Everyone in your organization should care about what happens when there's a major incident because it affects the business. Customer support obviously is going to need to know what's going on because they're going to get customers contacting them probably about things that are going wrong. They need to be able to talk to those customers about how we as an organization are responding to this incident. It may be an asset for sales even to talk about how reliable your business is, how quickly and efficiently you respond if there's inevitable problems. It's beneficial for everyone in your organization to understand the process that you follow during a major incident. So we host these office hours to explain that process, get folks familiar, and this becomes your opening to recruit more incident commanders. So you explain the process, you make clear the incident commander role, emphasizing the fact that you don't have to be an engineer to help out in this situation, and you can recruit people who may be interested in helping. Now, once you've identified a person who is interested in helping, who understands the needs and expectation of an incident commander, you can set them up to shadow the incident commander on call. And especially for non-engineers, they may have never been on call before. So this is a really good step to build up on-call empathy, to help them learn what it's really like to be on call, what does it feel like when there is a major incident. But you need to make clear that when the trainee is shadowing, they need to remain silent. No asking questions during the major incident because that'll distract from actually responding. That is a bit harsh, so what you can do is after the incident is resolved, follow up with the trainee who is listening in to see if they had any questions about what they heard on the call to make sure that they feel like they're being supported through this training. So scribe is another formalized role in an incident response process. The scribe is responsible for keeping a real-time log of everything that's happening during the response. So the key decisions that are made, the tasks that are done, the results of the experiments. It's really helpful to analyze this for your postmortem. And this is also a really low-risk way to get an incident commander in training to start helping during a major incident. It's low risk because if you miss something, it's not a big deal. You're still quiet, you're just typing as much as you can. But this was actually my first experience helping in a major incident, and it was the first time I felt like I was concretely helping. I had the ability to really contribute during this really scary situation. So it helps build a bit of confidence. And just the act of writing everything down really solidifies your knowledge of the process. So it's really helpful to have an incident commander in training to maybe step in as a scribe during a major incident. You may have heard of Netflix's Chaos Monkey. So this is the process of intentionally injecting failure into your systems to see what happens, to test the resiliency of your service. Now we do this at PagerDuty every Friday as an exercise, and we treat it as if it was a real incident. So we have an incident commander serve during this Failure Friday exercise. And this becomes really good training, hands-on experience to simulate a real incident. Again, in a relatively low-risk situation, it's during business hours, we're all sitting in a conference room together, you have people to help, we've planned out what we're going to do, but it gives hands-on experience of what it's actually like going through the motions of being an incident commander. So this is a great way to give your trainees more experience before they go fully into it. Now finally, once your incident commander has listened into a few calls, maybe served as scribe a few times, has gone through a practice during maybe a Failure Friday exercise, you want to hook them up to go on call to get paged when there's a major incident. But you want to give them a buddy of a more experienced incident commander. So both of them are on call, Both will get paged and both will join the call when there's a major incident. But your trainee acts as the incident commander. They'll announce on the call, "Hi, I'm Rachel, I am now the incident commander." The more experienced incident commander will listen in and help however is needed. Maybe they'll serve as scribe, but the important thing is the mentor, the more experienced person, needs to let the trainee lead. Let them build credibility with all the responders on the call, so don't try to override their authority. If they're forgetting things, you can send them tips in the background. Send them a direct message. It's incredibly helpful to have someone who's more experienced to bounce ideas off of, to check in, am I forgetting something? Did I say that right? It was so helpful to have someone in the background. But all the responders are seeing me lead to build credibility, build authority as an incident commander. So I did this, and it was really exhausting my first time being an incident commander, but having that help in that background, having a buddy, made me feel more comfortable, made me feel more confident, made me realize that I really can do this. I can lead during a major incident. So it was a huge sense of accomplishment to resolve that incident together as a team, which was really rewarding as an incident commander. And then the last step of your training is to celebrate them. Your trainee has successfully led incident response process. They're now graduated to a fully fledged incident commander, which means that they're having a direct impact on the health of your services and the happiness of your customers. And having another incident commander on your rotation relieves the on-call load for all your other incident commanders, which means less burnout, better outcomes. So here's a summary of all the steps that we go through in our incident commander training. Another good photo slide if you want a photo to take home with you. So you need to start by clearly defining the incident commander role as not the resolver. They're responsible for coordinating and delegating all tasks. You can host regular office hours to explain your incident response process to the organization at large and start to recruit people who may not have had any exposure to a major incident before to explain to them how they can really help. You then invite them to shadow, listen in silently to a response call. You can maybe have them help out by keeping a real-time log as scribe during a major incident. You can do a simulation with a Failure Friday exercise. And finally, they reverse shadow, where the trainee gets to lead, but they have support in the background. So with DevOps, we talk a lot about empathy. It's all about breaking down these functional silos between development teams and operations teams for faster and better outcomes. Well, I believe we should expand that collaborative mission beyond just development and operations, but across the entire organization, so technical and non-technical people can help each other when it matters most. If you want to learn more about how we do incident response at PagerDuty, we've actually open sourced our documentation at response.pagerduty.com. You can read in much more detail all of the roles and responsibilities, the process. It's great reading as you start to develop your own incident response process. I expect yours to be slightly different based on your company's culture and so forth. If you want to talk more about incident response or how to welcome non-engineers into the DevOps community, I'm around all day. Come and find me. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have time for questions. Who wants to ask first?
Hello, my name is Sadi. I'm from Avengers and also DevOps organization team. One of the things I would like to ask you is that when you were talking about like a incident document or something like that. We are working as a consultancy firm in Turkey. So a lot of the problems that we face when we are trying to implement an incident response or like an alerting system in the teams, a lot of the times we come up with the fact that a lot of the companies doesn't have a lot of documentations that can help people actually do what they should do. So how can we encourage people about these processes that so we can help them better?
Yeah, so first you have to start by actually defining it and writing it down if they don't have it, and especially as a consultant, you can really help define the best in class way to do it. So having a place to read, and then office hours may be a good start of promoting it. Hey, I have this document, read it on your free time. If you have any questions, come and sit with us, we can walk you through it. And then practicing, hands-on, maybe doing a Failure Friday exercise to practice it in the office could be another way to really cement the knowledge.
Thank you.